Once long ago, in a land far away, there lived four little characters who ran through a maze looking for cheese to nourish them and make them happy. Two were mice named Sniff and Scurry, and two were little people beings who were as small as mice but who looked and acted a lot like people today. Their names were Him and Hoa. Due to their na- due, due to their na- due to their Due to their small size, it would be easy to find notice what for what the four of them were doing. But if you looked closely enough, you could discover your most amazing things. Every day, the mice and the little people spent time in a maze looking for their own special cheese. The name Sniff and Scurry, possessing only simple root, brain, but good instinct, searched for their heart-nibbling cheese their lives, as mice often do. The two little people, Ham and Hoa, used their brains filled with many beliefs to search for a very different kind of cheese with capital C, which they believed would make them feel happy and successful. As different as the mice and little people were, they share something in common. Every morning they each put on their jogging suit and running shoes, left their little homes, and raced out into the maze looking for their favorite cheese. The maze was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, some containing delicious cheese, but there were also dark corners and bleak alley leading nowhere. It was an easy place for anyone to get lost. However, for those who find their way, the maze held secrets that let them enjoy a better life. The mice Sniff and Scurry used the simple but 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 inefficient trial and error method of finding cheese. They run down one's corridor, and if it proved empty, they turned and ran down another. Sniff would smell out of the general direction of the cheese, using his great nose and Scurry would raise your head. They got lost, as you might expect, went off its wrong direction and often bumped into the wall. However, the mice, the, however, the two little people, Ham and Hoa, used a different method. They relied on their ability to think and learn from their past experience. Although they would sometimes get confused by their belief and emotions. Eventually, in their own way, they all discovered what they were looking for. They each found their own kind of cheese. One day, at the end of one of the corridors in Cheese Station C. Every morning after that, the mice and the little people dressed in their running gear and headed over to Cheese Station C. It wasn't long before they each established their own routine. Sniff and Scurry continued to wake early every day and race through the maze, always following the same route. When they arrived at their destination, the mice took off their running shoes, tied them together, and hung them around their necks so they could get to them quickly whenever they needed them again. Then they enjoyed the cheese. In the beginning, Ham and Hoa also raced toward Cheese Station C every morning to enjoy the tasty new morsels that awaited them. But after a while, a different routine set, set in for the little people. Ham and Hoa awoke each day a little later, dressed a little dressed a little shorter, and walked to cheese station C. After all, they knew where the cheese was. Where the cheese was now and how to get there. They had no idea where the cheese came from or who put it there. They just assumed it would be there. As soon as Ham and Hoa arrived at cheese station C each morning, they settled in and made themselves at home. They hung up their jogging suit, put away their running shoes, and put on their slippers. They were becoming very comfortable now that they had found the cheese. This is great, Ham said. There is enough cheese here to last us forever. The little people felt happy and successful and thought they were now secure. It was long before Ham and Hoa regarded the cheese they found at cheese station C as their cheese. It was such a large store of cheese that they eventually moved their homes to be closer to it and built a social life around it. To make themselves feel more at home, Ham and Hoa decorated the walls with saying and even drew pictures of cheese around them, which made them smile. One read, "Having cheese makes you happy." Sometimes Ham and Hoa would take their friends by to see their pile of cheese at cheese station C and pointed with pride, saying, "Pretty nice cheese, huh?" Sometimes they shared it with their friends and sometimes they didn't. "We deserve this cheese," Ham said. "We certainly had to walked long and hard enough to find it." He picked up the nice fresh piece and ate it. After a while, Ham fell asleep as he often did. Every night the little people would waddle home full of cheese, and every morning they would confidently return for more. This went on for quite some time. After a while, Ham's and Hoa's confidence grew into the arrogant success. Soon they became so comfortable they didn't even notice what was happening. As time went on, Sniff and Scurry continued their routine. They arrived early each morning and sniffed and scratched and scurried around cheese station C, inspecting the area to see if there had been any change from the day before. Then they would sit down to nibble on the cheese. One morning they arrived at cheese station C and discovered there was no cheese. They weren't surprised, since Snip and Scurry had noticed the supply of cheese had been getting smaller every day. They were prepared for the nibbling and knew instinctively what to do. They looked at each other, removed the running shoes they had tied together and hung conveniently around their necks, put them on their feet and raised them up. The mice did not overanalyze things, and they were not burdened with many complex beliefs. To the mice, the problem and the answer were both simple. The situation at Cheese Station C had changed, so Sniff and Scurry decided to change. They both looked out into the maze. Then Sniff lifted his nose, sniffed, and noticed to Scurry, who took off running through the maze, while Sniff followed as fast as he could. They were quickly off in search of new cheese. Later that same day, Ham and Hoa arrived at Cheese Station C. They had not been paying attention to the small changes that had been taking place each day, so they took it for granted their cheese would be there. They were unprepared for what they found. What? No cheese? Ham yelled. He continued yelling, "No cheese! No cheese!" As though if he shouted loud enough, someone would put it back. "Who moved my cheese?" he hollered. Finally, he put his hands on his hips. His face turned red, and he screamed at the top of his voice, "It's not fair!" Hoa just shook his head in disbelief. He too had continued on finding cheese at Cheese Station C. He stood there for a long time, frozen with shock. He was just not ready for this. Ham was yelling something, but Hoa didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to deal with what was facing him, so he just turned everything out. The little people's behavior was not very attractive or productive, but it was understandable. Finding cheese wasn't easy, and it meant a great deal more to the little people than just having enough of it to eat every day. Finding cheese was the little people's way of getting what they thought they needed to be happy. They had their own idea of what cheese meant to them, depending on their taste. For some, finding cheese was having material things. For others, it was enjoying good healthy or developing a spiritual sense of well-being. For How, cheese just meant feeling safe, having a loving family someday, and living in a cozy cottage on Cheddar Lane. To him, cheese was becoming a big cheese in change of other and running a big house atop Camembert Hill. Because cheese was important to them, the two little people spent a long time trying to decide what to do. All they could think of was to keep looking around Cheeseless Station C to see if the cheese was really gone. While Sniff and Scurry had quickly moved on, Ham and Hoa continued to ham and Hoa. They rant and raved at the injustice of it all. Hoa started to get depressed. What would happen if the cheese wasn't there tomorrow? He had made future plans based on his cheese. The little people couldn't believe it. How could this have happened? No one had wanted them. It wasn't right. It was not the way things were supposed to be. Ham and Hoa went home one night hungry and discovered But before they left, Ho, Hoa wrote on the wall, "The more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it." The next day, Ham and Hoa left their homes and returned to Cheese Station C again, where they still expected somehow to find their cheese. The situation hadn't changed. The cheese was no longer there. The little people didn't know what to do. Ham and Hoa just stood there, immobilized like two statues. Hoa shut his eyes as tight as he could and put his hands over his ear. He just wanted to black everything out. He didn't want to know. The cheese supplies had gradually been getting smaller. He believed it had been moved all of a sudden. Ham analyzed the situation over and over, and eventually this complicated brain with its huge belief system took hold. "Why didn't they do this to me?" he demanded. "What's really going on here?" Finally, Hoa opened his eyes, looked around, and said, "By the way, where are Sniff and Scurry? Do you think they know something we don't?" Ham scoffed. "What would they know?" Ham continued, They're just simple minds. They just respond to what happens. We are little people. We are special. We should be able to figure this out. And besides, we deserve better. This should not happen to us, or if it does, we should at least get some benefits. Why should we get benefits?" Hoa asked. "Because we are entitled," Ham exclaimed. "Entitled to what?" Hoa wanted to know. "We are entitled to our cheese." "Why?" Hoa asked. "Because we didn't cause this problem," Ham said. "Somebody else did this, and we should get something out of it." Hoa suggested maybe you should stop analyzing the situation so much and just get going and found analyzing the situation so much and just get going and find some new cheese. "Oh no," Ham argued. "I'm going to get to the bottom of this." While Ham and Hoa were still trying to decide what to do, Sniff and Scurry were already well on their way. They went farther into the maze, up and down corridor, looking for cheese in every cheese station they could find. They didn't think of anything else but finding new cheese. They didn't find any for something until they finally went into an area of the maze where they had never been before, Cheese Station N. They squealed with delight. They found what they had been looking for, a great supply of new cheese. They could hardly believe their eyes. It was the biggest store of cheese the mice had ever seen. In the meantime, Ham and Hoa were still back in Cheese Station C, evaluating their situation. There were news suffering from the effort of having no cheese. They became frustrated and angry and were blaming each other for the situation they were in. Now and then, Hoa thought about his mice friends, Sniff and Scurry, and wondered if they had found any cheese yet. He believed they might be having a hard time, as running through the maze usually involved some uncertainty. But he also knew that it was likely to only last for a while. Sometimes Hoa would imagine sniff and scurry finding new cheese and enjoying it. He thought about how good it would be for him to be out on an adventure in a maze and to find fresh new cheese. He could almost taste it. The more clearly Hoa said the amazing of himself finding and enjoying the new cheese, the more he saw himself leaving Cheese Station C. "Let's go," he exclaimed it. All of a sudden, "No," Ham quickly responded. "I like here. It's comfortable. It's what I know. Besides, it's dangerous out there." "No, it isn't," Hoa argued. "We are running through part of May before, and we can do it again." I'm getting too old for that," Ham said, "and I'm afraid I'm not interested in getting lost and making a fool of myself. Are you?" With that, Hoa's fear of failing returned, and his hope of finding new cheese faded. So every day, the little people continued to do what they had done before. They went to Cheese Station C, found no cheese, and returned home carrying their worries and frustrations with them. They tried to deny what was happening, but found it harder to get to sleep. Had less energy the next day. The world became illegible. Their homes were not the nurturing places they once were. The little people had difficulty sleeping and were having nightmare about not finding any cheese. But Ham and Hoa still returned to Cheese Station C and went there every day. Ham said, if you just work harder, we'll find nothing had really changed that much. The cheese is probably nearby. Maybe they just hid it behind the wall." The next day, Ham and Hoa returned with tools. Ham held the chisel while How banged on the hammer until they made a hole in the wall of Cheese Station C. They peered inside but found no cheese. They were disappointed but believed they could solve the problem, so they started to eat earlier, stay longer, and worked harder. But after a while, all they had was a large hole in the wall. How was beginning to realize the difference between activity and productivity. "Maybe," Ham said, "we should just sit down and see what happens. Sooner or later, then have put the cheese back." Hoa wanted to believe that. So each day he went home to rest and returned reluctantly with Ham to Cheese Station C, but cheese never appeared.